Welcome to episode number 2, Too Twisted for TV. Of course, last week we had former Chief Meteorologist Ned Permy, and now we have a special guest, a great honor, and I mean that in all seriousness. We give each other, grief every now and then. The Weather Channel's Charles Peak, who travels the country he's hundreds of thousands of miles have probably been put on your truck, haven't you?
Well, I got a new vehicle, so we're just starting to put it on. But the last one, I had 407,000 miles on it. So
chasing storms, chasing hurricanes, chasing tornadoes, chasing hail, chasing snow, and you're from Arkansas. And you're on. Thank you for stopping by Little Rock.
No, excuse me. I'm from Texas.
Okay.
Remember,
here we go. Here we go.
I just want to point that out. But I have moved, and
I
do support the Razorbacks. So.
Okay.
Unless they're playing Texas.
Unless they're playing Texas. But you live up in Northwest Arkansas, and you're on your way to New Orleans, and I cannot believe, because I thought. I came back home, and the first storm that I covered when I came back home to cover was Katrina, and that's what you're doing. You're going back to New Orleans.
Yeah, we're having live coverage. Friday is the 20th anniversary. We've got a 1-hour special that's been running, started Sunday and running this week, and talking about it. And then Voices of Katrina is a social media campaign that we're doing where people can tell their stories and tag that, and then we'll use those through the week. And then we'll be down there live on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Cantori and Stephanie Abrams, Justin Michaels, Paul Goodlow, and my role here, I wear a lot of different hats.
Yes, you do.
My role on this one is to fly the drone live, and so to show some of the aerial perspectives there, and so I won't be actually on camera in that respect, but just as a support role, and so it just depends on what the situation is, what I end up doing.
Yeah. So I remember that day when it hit, and we had outer bands from Katrina hitting Arkansas. Even as far on the northwest side where you don't expect it to be that intense. And they were intense thunderstorms that came through here. Of course, obviously the worst east. But I remember sitting in front of the TV and I don't think I fully grasped the horrific nature of it until later that day when I saw the helicopters coming in and rescuing people off roofs.
Yeah. And especially into the day or two after that, and then just with the Superdome situation, and it just... and then I don't remember exactly when, but then I went out because I wasn't with the Weather Channel at that time. And so I was in Northwest Arkansas, and a bunch of the survivors they brought up to Siloam Springs, to the Baptist encampment, about 700. And so I volunteered to go out there and help those people as well, just their lives uprooted, and just support them however we can. End up building a relationship with a couple, and they ended up getting married, and she asked me if I'd give her away at their wedding. So
Are you serious?
So that was sort of a neat deal, but just trying to love on people in that situation. And
you taught me the ministry of presence in our friendship. When people are going through very difficult times in their life, sometimes we don't know what to do, what to say, but just being there is everything.
Right.
And you taught me that, and that's what you do, because you're not only a storm chaser, tracker. Sorry, the storm chaser, storm tracker. I'm sorry, because
no, it's fine.
But I mean, you're not just out there looking at storms and broadcasting them for the Weather Channel. I mean, you get involved with the people that are affected by these storms.
Absolutely. Immediately. If we have damage and stuff, then, I change from a storm tracker role and live from the vehicle there. I may be putting on my hat and setting up and being on camera, to start telling the story. One of the situations most recently that happened was, the St. Louis tornado, and so, I got up there the next day.
I think we have some drone video that we're going to pull up here. Let's just go ahead and talk about this. This is the St. Louis. This is video that you took of the damage. Is that right?
Yes. It was,
okay.
It was, that was on a Friday. This was on Saturday morning, and some aerial views just showing the widespread devastation, that was
there. It is right there.
And you can see just in that particular place, unfortunately, a lady passed away, and her husband survived that. But And one of the challenges there in much of the area that was hit the hardest, it's also the poorest area of St. Louis. And so some of the areas, some of that old, buildings in some cases, for me, Todd, this was probably the most damage I've ever seen from a tornado. Bigger than Joplin.
Bigger than Joplin.
In the sense, what is the amount of homes? There were over 5,000 homes damaged by this. When you have a mile-wide EF3 tornado going through a downtown, basically populated
Very
area.
highly populated.
And so it wasn't, you didn't have, just total. There was a lady that died in this church right here. And so you didn't have, blocks leveled that you would see like in Joplin or Mayfield or, those kinds of things. You did have homes totally destroyed. There was a lady that I talked to, Gwen, on Sunday morning, and her house was just totally destroyed. They were in it. Her and her son were in it. They were thrown from the house, and she was staying there in her car. And talking to her, she explained to me why she was doing that, because she was a bus driver for over 30 years, a widow, and she was worried that what little she could salvage would be looted if she didn't stay on there. And, so we ended up telling her story multiple times, went back and checked. I went back and volunteered, me and my wife, with Samaritan's Purse a few weeks later to go up there and help them. And so, we checked on her multiple times.
What do you say to these victims, the survivors of such horrific events? Because you walk up and in TV, there's a sort of there's a line you don't want to cross, because you have to cover the story, and it almost feels rude and to put a camera in somebody's face when they're at the worst moment of their life. How do you handle such situations? But their stories need to be told.
Well, first off, I don't stick a camera in their face until I've talked with them and they're okay with what I'm going to do. And I tried to explain to them, I am not here to sensationalize the devastation that you're going through. But I know we have a national audience. And if we can tell their story, our viewers want to help. And so they may donate to different aid organizations that are going to come there. They may volunteer. So I see it at that point in time as a way to bring help to them. You say, what do you say to them? In many cases, I'm hugging and crying with them and maybe having a prayer with them and just trying to give them a little comfort. I mean, that's all you can do,
But you also see the goodness that comes out of some tragedy like this, because you are telling their stories to a nationwide audience, and you've got to witness people seeing that, and what you're doing is bringing help to those people in need.
Absolutely.
Through Samaritan's Purse, too.
Well, or other aid organizations, Mercy Chefs, different groups that I'll work with, but there's many good ones out there. Those are just two that I happen to support. But, there was interesting, a couple weeks later, 6 weeks later, I went back to cover the heat story. And so go back into those areas because they don't have any place to go. And so how is oppressive heat going to impact them? And I came across two guys, and this was so neat, that the morning after, they realized their food's going to go bad. They had a barbecue grill out there. And so they started getting the neighbors to come bring the food and start cooking it because it's going to go bad. They're just thinking they're going to take care of their neighbors. Well, it started growing, and people from all over the area is coming. One of the local TV stations did a story on them. That got out, and what was neat, Todd, while I was there, 3 different people. Now, these were African Americans that are there. 3 different Anglo people in rich suburban communities were coming, getting their neighbors, getting their people together to bring food down there to them, bring supplies to them. And Tony said to this one lady, she said, what would be the chances of us meeting if it wasn't for this disaster?
Yeah.
So it's neat to see people helping people. We see that all the time. And to see in those communities, Tony and Larry that were helping right there, and then also, others when they heard about it to cross over racial lines and to come down there and just help.
You saw that too in the Little Rock tornado. The streets were packed not by sightseers after it was packed with people wanting to help.
Right.
And that was, it's amazing how the community will come together like that after a tragedy.
Yeah, I remember, I was in North Little Rock getting the tornado crossing the river, and then with the drone had that, and then covered it, then went on to Wynn with that tornado, and then came back the next morning with Chris Warren, and we were live down in your neighborhood.
Right.
Down there. And
I think I met you all at the Embassy Suites for,
that's right,
for breakfast the next day where y'all were staying.
Yeah. I mean, anytime you tell you food's available.
I'm going to be there. But yeah, so you come in here and see the stories. You saw all the people coming to help out. We're going to return back to some of these natural disasters that you've covered, but you're going to New Orleans and you're on your way to New Orleans. There's also, this city has been through so much. That obviously terrible. Some people would say this is terrible. I would not. But the snow in New Orleans just earlier this year, and I guess it was because it stopped life there, but it was one of those experiences where the residents of New Orleans got to experience something they've never experienced before.
And I'm talking sometimes, in some cases, I talked to one lady in her 30s, and she had never seen snow before. But as I was driving around, they pretty much shut everything down. That was the next morning, drone view there of the snow covering the city. They had, officially, I think about 10 inches, but some of the areas measured 12.
In New Orleans, Louisiana.
And, of course, there was along the coast and stuff, but New Orleans was sort of in to be there and to experience that. And it was just amazing. Of course, they don't have plows there.
Nope.
They did hire some and bring them in.
I think Arkansas Department of Transportation
they did, and they came down too.
Yeah.
They initially, what was interesting on Canal Street that night, so they came through with the plows and plowed it. Well, they had salted before that, and it got really cold. I don't remember how cold, but I think in the 20s. And so it froze underneath. So when they plowed it, it literally was a sheet of ice on Canal Street, and they were playing ice hockey on Canal Street. Just crazy. But, it shut down the city for several days because, as you know, everything's elevated, those bridges, and, they didn't melt fast. And so, but
the only thing that's going to melt them it's the sun.
Right.
I remember looking at the map of blizzard warnings. There were blizzard warnings in effect for coastal Louisiana. Yeah. Are you kidding me?
This was Canal Street, you can see.
Yeah, so this is where they were doing a little ice hockey. Huh?
Yeah, and everything. Unfortunately, I saw a post on it, and I didn't catch them doing it, but I did get somebody with cross-country skis going down Canal Street and stuff. But, overall, everybody took it, in stride. It was neat to see, they had different people making snowmans. I talked to some kids that were out, making this, and they just never had seen this before, you know.
And they may never see it again.
Unless
they go somewhere else and to see it. But what was the look on their faces?
Oh, just the excitement, and it wasn't just kids. They have the pump stations. And so I stopped by, I'm driving down the road, and I look over there, and there's a couple of pump station guys building this big snowman and putting the New Orleans pump station hat on them and stuff. So they were having fun. And so it was neat. Just, I had some that were put them out in Mardi Gras beads and all that kind of stuff.
Of course.
Yeah, and stuff. So it was neat.
Again, another one of those moments probably will never happen again in our lifetime. So, Hurricane Helene, very recent, western North Carolina. I don't even remember exactly what that hurricane's category was when it made landfall on the Gulf Coast.
I want to say it was a 3, but I could be off, or maybe it hit a 4. But
it doesn't have to be a 5. It was the perfect storm because it went up the spine of the Appalachians, where you get added lift from, and all tropical systems are just moisture. All it is just a bunch of water in the atmosphere, and those mountains wrung it out, and they're still suffering in western North Carolina.
Yes, the 1-year anniversary will be. This is where I'm riding around with the sheriff in Yancey County. I mic'd him up, and the only way we could get around was on a 4x4. One of the neat stories, this 4x4, some lady from Kansas City called up the sheriff and said, "How do you need a 4x4 to be able to get around in these situations?" Because they didn't have one. And he said, well, ma'am, you're looking at about $30,000 for one of these deals. She goes, I understand. You find, and they found a place, and she called in and took care of for him.
Isn't that amazing?
You know, somewhere completely not even in the area. He asked, she didn't know anything about it, just saw it on TV and wanted to help. But, you know, his mother and dad's home, they lived there 50 years, and they watched it wash away. They were able to get out. They went over to her mother's house. She was 92 years old, and she had to crawl up a hill, and they watched both of their houses go down the street or down the stream. And
what was the name of the community? Chimney Rock? Was that?
No, that wasn't Chimney Rock. That was another community, but this was outside of Burnsville.
Okay.
And everything in Yancey County, and so it was. You know, but what's neat, there's some different relief organizations that have come in there and are coming in because nobody had insurance. I mean, that grandmother, she had lived there for over 70 years, and it never come anywhere close. Mm-hmm. And so, and a lot of these are generational homes. That sheriff, 10% of his sheriff's department lost their homes. And they were still out. He was telling me at one point in time, for about 36 hours, there were some of his deputies that were cut off. All communication went, and they didn't even know if they survived. And so it just, those kind of gut-wrenching things, and but to see the country come in there and you know, mainly from aid organizations and different things like that. But it's... you know, the sheriff had called me several weeks ago. It's possible. He invited me to come back the 27th of September. They're going to have their 1-year anniversary, and they're doing something. So we'll see if we go back there for that and if I would be included.
I see videos every now and then on social media of the Amish that are going
little
there,
homes,
and they're rebuilding.
Yep. Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah.
Just, you know, the country coming to that small area, that remote area, and doing what they can to help their brothers and sisters.
Yeah. It's neat. We see that all over. Justin Michaels, I talk about it a lot. That, you know, it's people helping people is going to make everything better.
I don't ever like to wade into politics at all. We talked a little bit about this on the phone just recently, but we talk about FEMA, we talk about all these other organizations, and there's obviously there's a purpose for these organizations, but when you really get down to it, it's the locals and the people that are you know, and the people who weren't affected necessarily that come in, and they are the ones that are instrumental in getting the morale back up and pitching in and helping out. Or
even in some cases, these national, now in this particular case, Samaritan's Purse did a lot. Mm-hmm. They're based in North Carolina, so their home area even got hit with this. And I know, and this was a few months ago, it could have changed by now, but they're coming in with 1,000 homes that they're building. They're building 500 of them, stick-built, and 500 modular homes that they're coming in. It's going to take a couple of years for them to accomplish all that. But, yeah, it's, you know, it's one of those deals. The government's, regardless of Democrat, Republican, they're a little slower. It's big bureaucracy, a little slower to get everything done, and it doesn't matter whether it's Katrina or whether, you know, Helene. And so to have these different aid organizations that are coming, you know, Mercy Chefs, Samaritan's Purse, their leadership stays in touch with me because in many cases I'm first on the scene in these situations. Mm-hmm. And they're calling, how bad is it? What are the numbers? Do we need to respond? And then that'll help them. They're going to end up being there anyway, but if I can help them, because initially sometimes information is a little hard to come from.
Yeah. Moving on, I want to talk about this. You have a slideshow, by the way, because, I mean, you have seen and witnessed, I think in my career I've only witnessed a couple of tornadoes that I've ever seen because I'm always in the studio. Yeah. But you have seen things that people will never see for their lives, and the number of times you see them is incredible. But you're a photographer too, a professional photographer. That it is just. We got some of the pictures and stuff that we're going to show here. I think it's just a second.
I really love photography, but as you know, I live in a video-based world.
Yeah, tell us what we're looking at.
So there's one of a tornado. This was up in But look at that one right there, and that one right there, you can see this was in Iowa, and out going through a field. It did hit a few barns and everything, but nobody was injured from that. But you can just see how huge that was. I had that live on the Weather Channel for about 6 minutes. You can see this was a picture I took in South Colorado, getting away from the storm, and you can see how big it is. This was in Texas, and I don't always – it's hard for me to get out and take pictures because I'm operating the camera that's live for us. And so sometimes it's not coming straight at you. You don't want that. But this one was one I ended up jumped out and took 2 different pictures and then in post-processing could stitch them together to get the whole rainbow there.
And the tornado.
And the tornado.
Is that on the ground there?
Yep, it is. And it was the one just previous was this tornado as it started to ultimately.
Hey, I recognize that.
And I think you even showed that footage on air.
Thank you so much, because when Charles is in Arkansas, every now and then he'll say, "You want a little piece of video?" And I'm like, yeah, send it.
Yeah, and the Weather Channel's nice enough to let me. We can only let it be here locally.
That's right, in-house only.
But to support the state that I live in.
When was it? Was that January this year?
No, it was last year, I believe.
Okay.
This was up in Kansas City, the Aurora. And granted, this is a longer exposure, so that light, you can look there. There's some lights out there. There's fishermen out there, and they had no idea this was going on. So from the naked eye, if you really knew to look for it, you could see it some. But with a longer exposure, you can capture the
2024 was amazing for the Aurora.
This was May 2024,
yeah.
And even some people down in Arkansas saw it.
That's right. It was visible.
Yep. And this was up in North Dakota.
This had to have been visible.
Oh, yes. This was visible. Yeah. The funny thing, I'm by myself. I'm calling my wife. I'm so excited about it. And there's nobody to share it with, and I'm looking, which way do I point the camera? It's everywhere. It's above me. It's out this way. It's that way. And it was just, it was just amazing. So,
great picture.
Yeah. So it's, we did a series with me on our TV streaming app. I know you've teased me. We did one on the storm tracking, Tracking Charles.
Tracking Charles.
But I talked to him about, yes, I see a lot of death and destruction, but there's a lot of beauty in this country. And so we did a series called Peak Travels and showing some of the beauty that I come across, not storm related, but like frozen waterfalls in western New York, cover bridges of Madison County in Iowa, Haystack Rock out in Oregon. So all these areas that in between when I'm busy, I like to get out and capture it. And so it just came natural. And so it was fun. This was literally at Bella Vista. So
this was up in Northwest Arkansas.
Northwest Arkansas,
wow.
And to get the reflection there and the branching of it. And this was one, had several people buy large metal or acrylic prints of this one. And this was out in Sublette, Kansas, and just to catch the lightning. And if in the video, I had a little time lapse of it too. It was like egg beaters going there, So you had cyclonic and it's one storm. It's on the backside. At first, I thought it was 2 colliding, but then when I went back and looked at it on radar and everything, you could tell it was the backside, and both sides were spinning counterclockwise. And everything. It did not produce a tornado, but you can see the wall cloud there and everything. So, just, and of course out there, this was in Granbury, Texas. I was down in Texas and set up some intense lightning. I set the camera up. I'll put it underneath my back hatch and get in the car, for safety, or I've got a mount that I can put on my windshield, on my window, and so it doesn't do it that way.
What kind of camera are you using for these?
A lot of them, I transitioned to Sony recently. So Sony A7S III, Sony A1. I've got the Sony A9. Now, get this. That's Canal Street. Oh, I don't know. Did we go past it? Can we go back?
There it is.
That is Canal Street in the eye of Hurricane Zeta.
Zeta, what year was that?
2020, I believe.
Okay.
And so if you look, there's no traffic on Canal Street. If you look real close, you can see Paul Goodlow's in the middle of the street on the right. So he's out there, and I'm flying the drone. But
so you're in the eye of the hurricane.
We're in the eye of the hurricane right now, and
completely calm.
Not, I mean, it was really calm.
Could you see up?
No, it was
okay.
a little mess. It was a little, but
okay.
what was happening is the lights along there, the neon lights, gave it that pinkish reflection on the clouds and everything.
How fast did it change when the backside of the eye wall came through? How fast did the winds and the rain pick up?
It goes pretty quick.
I was about to say it's got to be almost just like that.
And so you, believe it or not, this tornado is in Mexico.
Mexico?
I'm in Texas right here, right on the border.
Oh, so you're looking across the border into Mexico.
And everything. And so it stayed on the ground for a long time. They couldn't, the National Weather Service, you can tell it's just open land. And since it went into Mexico, they couldn't ever do a survey. So it was a EF unknown.
Unknown.
So.
And I don't know if Mexico even has meteorologists that go out and surveys. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know on that one. And stuff. So.
All right. Do we have any more, or is that the end of the slideshow? That's the end? There's a couple more? Oh, wow. That's anvil lightning, isn't it?
Yeah. Isn't it cool?
Yeah.
And so that's a case where I'm sitting here facing to the right, and I've got my camera set up on my window facing out the left of my vehicle, and it's a long exposure, like 15 seconds or 10, depends on the lightning, and be able to capture that and stuff. So.
All right. Well, and I think we may have time for a couple more that I want to make sure I ask you another question here. Okay.
You can see that again. That's actually 3 lightning strikes stacked together.
Okay.
So it didn't happen all at the same.
You stacked the pictures together.
Right. And everything. There was one down in Texas. This was rotating like a top.
Yeah.
And then here's with Cantori, we were up in Buffalo, 81 inches of snow.
I remember that one, Orchard Park.
Yep.
This is yeah.
Yep.
Okay, this is the massive lake effect event.
Yeah, it was puking snow.
Puking snow. It was Ryan vomiting snow.
Do you recognize where that is?
Is that Memphis?
That is the Memphis Bridge. I'm in Memphis, looking back towards Arkansas.
Yeah.
And this was down in Paducah, Texas, earlier this year, and it's but
you have witnessed so much in such a short period of time. We call you a storm tracker. I don't want to put you on the spot here, but there is, storm chasing when I did it, and I'm going to call it storm chasing because that's what we called it when I did it. There were people out there. It was not as big as it was today. This was back in the 1990s. We didn't have our phones. We didn't have radar with us and everything. Now everybody's out there storm chasing, and there's an awful, awful trend going on that I call that I don't call it. They call it zero metering, and you have to deal with all of this on the roads.
Yeah, it's for me. I'm not going to be 0 meter from the tornado. I mean, there's been a couple of cases where I've been there, but that's not the plan.
Now, what zero metering is when people say 0 meters, I'm going to drive into the tornado.
Right. And
they do it for clicks.
Right. Some of them will even then have their vehicle thrown because it gets hit by the tornado, and talk about how that they end up surviving, but they end up talking about how that grew their YouTube page so much.
Mm-hmm. And what, they think, well, I'll take the risk, but what they're not thinking is, well, they're taking the risk, but that car is a projectile and can kill an innocent person who's not doing the zero metering, another person. And it's just, how do you deal with this?
Well, it's tough. My feeling is, for the most part, adults are adults, and they make their decision to do what they want to do. I hope, I'm afraid somebody's going to get hurt too. But there was a good friend of mine that this last year, he got too close in a couple different cases, and I talked to him. He's got a young baby at home, and I said, you need to understand, all these people on social media, if you get killed, they're on to the next storm chaser. But I said, you've got a child that you could leave fatherless. And he got upset over it. He said, you crossed the line there. And I said, well, I hope I did.
Yeah, maybe that needed to happen.
I'm trying. I said, I've lost friends in tornadoes and storm chasing, and I don't want to see that. And, he did reach out recently and said, let's see if we can mend things, but for my good friends, I just can't not say anything. Everybody else, that's their choice.
We're running out of time. We could go on longer and longer, but I just we just have a few seconds left. How Kate, our wonderful producer over here, 30 seconds. You're heading to New Orleans. Again, you got live coverage coming up, the anniversary of Katrina, unbelievable, 20 years, on Friday.
And we'll be live with Cantori and Stephanie Abrams, Justin Michaels, and Paul Goodlow.
So, tell him I said hello.
Will do.
And I'll see him at the National Weather Association conference in Huntsville here soon, too. So
yeah,
make sure he says hello to me. That's a whole nother spiel. Thank you, Charles. Safe travels. Thanks for all you do for Arkansas. You represent Arkansas very well. Very well.
And I appreciate your friendship, Todd.
Yeah, I absolutely do, too, because he's not just a friend storm chaser, but we talk about things that, rough times we go through in life together.
Yep.
And the things that, so thank you very much, Charles. I really appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
All right. And this has been episode number 2 of Too Twisted for TV.